sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. I'm going to try something new this week, or something we don't do very often. I was on a podcast, the Success in South Carolina podcast, with host Jonathan Peeples last week. And we had a really great conversation about two things. One, about kind of how businesses get started, some of my original almost disastrous journey into the business that I'm in. And then the second half of the show, we talk about the addiction to approval that many people have and what you can do about it and how it impacts you in sales. So the podcast lasted almost an hour. I don't think y'all can take it for an hour. So we're going to do 30 minutes today, and then we'll do the second half of the podcast on Thursday. Thanks for listening. Share this with anybody that needs to know.
Our guest today lives in Columbia, South Carolina. He is the founder and principal of the No BS Sales School and podcast. He's trained over 200 sales teams and has coached businesses in nearly 100 different industries. He teaches teams how to establish a repeatable sales process, fix bad sales behaviors, disqualify bad leads quicker, and build a team of true sales professionals. He is the real deal sales trainer and coach, and his no BS approach to sales is exactly what you need to get to the next level. Welcome to the show, my new friend, Walker McKay.
Jonathan, hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for that nice introduction.
Excited to have you on today.
John, your listeners, I want to mention one thing to them. This is a great show and you're a great host. They can the best way they can reward you for this free stuff you're putting out is to go to wherever they listen to the podcast and go give you 5 stars and leave you a review, because that'll be the best thing you can do to boost this show so more people can hear it.
Dude, I love it. I love it because we do want to reach more people. We want to reach a lot, not just in South Carolina. 80% of our audience is in South Carolina, but we have people all throughout the U.S. and globally that are listening to us. But you're right, man. It's bigger than they realize. Just going out there and doing that one small thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thanks, man.
Way to make an impact. Well, dude, excited to have you in today. So you mentioned you wanted to, I want to chat about your story and how you got into sales and some of the excuses you were making in life. So I'm going to let you just go ahead and jump in and start talking, man. Tell us your story.
Sure. So I got into sales for the reason maybe a lot of people do, in that somebody told me early on, or when I was in college, they said, gosh, Walker, you can talk to anybody and you've got thousands of friends. You should go into sales, which are two terrible reasons to go into sales. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But so I went into the banking business, and where I was told to go out and get new business. And so I did that by going to try and make new friends and talk to people. And anyway, I about 18 months at the bank, and I either got fired or quit. I don't remember which happened. I get confused. It's been so long ago. Then I went into commercial real estate because I was a natural salesperson, because I could talk to anybody and had thousands of friends.
Right.
And about 8 years into the business, 7 years in the business, I was doing a little less than mediocre. The sales training that I got to that point was, there's the desk, there's the street, those are buildings, go sell one to somebody. That was the first bit of training I got. And the second bit of training that I got was, you should be the smartest guy in the room and the biggest asshole in the room. Okay. So there's my great training. So all of these are freaking terrible advice that I got, but that was what I was taught, what I was told, and what I watched. Right. So anyway, when I had a friend who went to go hire a sales coach, and I was like, you don't need a sales coach. You already know everybody. You can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And he said, well, no, I think I can get better. I'm like, how? And anyway, I was convinced that my friend had just wasted his money, and I wanted to go meet this guy who took money from him. And I went to go see him, knowing that I didn't need that guy's help because I was great at sales. But the results didn't show it, but I was great at sales, right? And so we started talking, and to this sales coach, I went and had a meeting with him, and he said, so you're in commercial real estate? I said, yep. He said, making probably $1 million a year? And I was like, oh no. He said, $500,000. I said, mm-mm. He said, 200. And I said, I hope maybe next year. And he said, why not $1 million? And I said, well, first of all, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. Freaking nobody makes that kind of money here. And number two, I don't know if you know this, we're in a commercial real estate recession at the time. This is 1990, it's last century, as my children like to say. It was, we have a very a lot of politics in the office, and I don't play that shit, so I don't get the good leads. And I went on for 2 or 3 minutes, and he said, I looked up and he was giving me the stop sign. I said, what? He said, suppose I told you I thought those were excuses. I was like, oh, shit. And I thought about it. I was like, oh, my God, he's right. But it was the same thing I'd been hearing everybody around me say. All the other losers in the bullpen were saying the same thing, right? And then he really got me because he said, where else in your life are you making excuses? And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, I live in a crappy apartment. My mom says I'm never going to get married because I'm such an asshole and all these other things. And I wept in his office, right? I'm not a crier, but I wept in his office. Actually, I am a crier. And I wrote him a check for $2,000 that day to help me. Well, here at the end of that story was the damn check bounced. Wow. Anyway, he kept me. I made it good. And I'm working along. And I worked with him for 9 or 10 years. Well, he was my coach for a couple of years. And then he called me one day. And I'd started my own commercial real estate business. I didn't want to have any more excuses. So I started my own advisory firm, was doing great stuff, had good business. And he called me one day and said, I hate to do this to you, but I'd love to talk to you about coming to work with me. I know you've got a great business, but come work with me. And I'd referred him a ton of people. He had changed my life of what he had showed me. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like fun. So I went to go work with him. And somewhere down the road, we had a great business. We made a lot of money together, but his directions and my directions started going different ways. And I kind of let our relationship fall apart. And it was killing me. But I realized that I'm just getting madder and madder and madder whenever I go to work because we kept clashing. And I said, told my wife, I got to leave. I can't stay. I got to get the hell out of here. But I wasn't going to tell anybody. I need to work my way through this. And I invited a client to lunch. I wasn't going to talk to them about anything. I'm talking to them about their business, right? And the client, I go sit down at lunch. I still remember the seat where I was sitting in. And we sit down. He goes, you look like shit. Which, by the way, is a killer way to greet somebody because they're like, what are you talking about? But he was being honest. And I said, what are you talking about? And then he goes, you just look terrible. And I said, oh, my God. And so I just basically vomited my information. I'm miserable in my job. This isn't working out. Got a great business, but I hate going to work. And I said, it's 50% my fault and 50% his fault, blah, blah, blah. And I go into my story and I look up and William's giving me the stop sign. I said, what? He said, it's 100% your fault. And I said, shit, you're right. Tell me why you say that. And he said, because if you give somebody else 50% of the blame, you'll be blaming the wrong damn person for the rest of your life. I was like, shit, you're right. It is 100% my fault. And the cool thing about that realization was I could then go to my business partner and sincerely say, I'm sorry. I dorked this whole thing up. I've been an asshole. I have not been in my right frame of mind. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there. And I'd rather go try on my own. I apologize sincerely, right? And walk away. Wasn't harboring any anger, any frustration, anything like that. It was me, right? Which was so freeing. And I thank William for that all the time for helping me get there. So then I have a long non-compete. I have all this crazy stuff. I'm working as a outsourced VP of sales for a number of different companies. I sucked at it. I sucked at being an outsourced VP of sales. The business model sucked. It was awful. And a friend of mine called just after my non-compete was over, just before, and said, you should go back into training. Why the hell don't you do that? And I said, man, I don't have any money for a training room. Right. He said, yeah, what else? I said, I don't have any materials. He said, what else? And I said, I don't know how to even do that. And he said, are you finished making excuses? I said, what? He goes, there's this thing called Zoom that you can use. It will cost you $100 a year. Can you find $100 a year? I was like, oh yeah. He said, you've got 10,000 hours of material in your head. You just need to write it down. I was like, you're right. And he said, I can help you with the business model. I was like, okay. And he goes, any other excuses? I was like, nope. And so it's funny. I am an A+ professional league excuse maker.
Yeah.
And so that has become that's one of the things I constantly struggle with myself. And I've come up with a way that I reframe when I catch myself is instead of saying, I can't, they won't, it's not, it'll never, is say instead, I haven't figured out how to yet.
Mm.
I haven't figured out how to lose 20 pounds this year. I hadn't figured out how to collect $1 million in my business in a year yet. I haven't figured out how to do this. And it's amazing when I start reframing my issues like that, I take responsibility for them, and it's very freeing. And the funny thing is when you say, I can't, they won't, it's not, your brain goes, okay, that's the truth. Right. But instead, when you say, I haven't figured out how to yet, the brain goes, yeah, how do we figure that out?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm over here now. I've been doing this business for 8 years on my own. I started the No BS sales school. We've got clients all around the country. I'm still not collecting $1 million yet, but we're headed that way. And I have a rule with my clients. I tell them, between you and me, between my clients and me, I say, look, if you ever hear me making an excuse, I want you to call me on it. I need to do better than that. I said, and I need permission to do that to you. And I said, if you want to change your company dramatically outside of any training that we do, give your people permission to call you out when they hear you making excuses, and then ask permission back to do the same for them, and then stick with it. And you will transform your culture and the results that you get.
Wow, that's amazing. Like you talked about there with excuses. One of the things when we take excuses, we're giving power away to someone or something or some circumstance. And if we make the excuse and it's not our fault, then we can't fix it either.
We're the victim.
Right. But if instead we say, hey, listen, it's all my fault. I'm the one to blame. If we accept 100, oh man, this is all about ownership, right? Extreme ownership of it's not the government's fault. It's not my mom's fault. It's not my teacher's fault. It's not my boss's fault. It's not my wife's fault. It's my fault.
My fault.
And if it's my fault, then guess what? I can change it.
Yeah.
But if it's my boss's fault, I can't change my boss. If it's the government fault, I can't change the government.
Well, here's the thing too, though, right? I want to talk about the difference between fault and responsibility.
Okay.
Fault means you caused it. Responsibility means you take ownership of it. Right. So the way this was described to me was, let's pretend you open up your door tomorrow morning and there's a baby in a basket on your front door.
Yeah.
Now, that's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to take care of and get that thing to safety. So not everything is your fault, but you must take responsibility, right? If somebody's mean to you, that's not your fault, but you need to take responsibility for how you respond, what you do next. Does that make sense?
And because some of us were born into bad circumstances, and that may not be our fault. I didn't choose how to be born. I didn't choose to be born whatever race or gender or economic status I was born in. But guess what? It's my responsibility to
take
get
it
out
from
of
there. Yeah, to take it from there.
Right. Yeah, I love it. Amazing. Yeah, excuse-itis, man. That's it's a bad disease. It's
a cancer. I don't like to use that because anyway, but it is. It eats away at who you can become, especially if nothing is your fault. And I have, I won't say they're friends, but they're people that I've known my whole life since I was a kid. And I don't like being around them because nothing's ever their fault and the world is against them and it's miserable. And it's just terrible that the reason they can't do all this is because so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, well, the reason I'm not going to hang out with you is because you're miserable.
Yeah. It's one thing to dump or vent. But if you're just looking to dump and vent, but you aren't looking for solutions or how can I fix this, right? If you go with the mindset, like you said, I haven't figured out yet. Maybe I'm speaking this to a coach or someone I trust and I'm venting to them because I'm looking for solutions. Yep. But if you got a friend that's just every time you meet them, they're complaining about things or they're giving excuses or they're talking about negative things, it's just, that's a drain on you. Why do that?
I still love them, but I push them back. Right. Yeah. I love them, but I don't spend time.
You mentioned earlier that the reasons you got into sales because you could talk to anybody and you had a lot of friends. That was horrible. Why? Why is that horrible?
Sure. So, couple of key things here, right? Talking to anybody, what that means often is that you talk too damn much, right? And my father taught me this is a difference between being, he told me too late, sadly, not too late, but I wish he had taught me earlier, work very hard at being interested, not so hard being interesting. Because I spent the first good 30 years of my life just trying to tell stories and be the center of attention. And great sales is not making it about you. The second part, however, the great about making so many friends, I teach my clients to focus on building healthy business relationships instead of friendships. Because everybody's taught when you go into sales, oh, it's all about the relationship. It's all about the relationship, which is, again, shitty advice. Because most people, when they get into sales, they say, okay, relationships, that's friendships. And so I know how to make friends with everybody. And there are several problems with that. Number one is the goal of a friendship. If it's anything more than than the friendship itself, you're being disingenuous. If you want to be friends with somebody so they'll give you something or you can get something from them, it's disingenuous.
Right.
Kind of a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
A healthy business relationship is where two or more people knowingly help each other reach their own business goals. Now, I've got plenty of people I do business with, and I am intimately involved in their business, but I've never had dinner with them. Don't care if I ever do. I don't know their wife's name. I don't know their kids' names. I don't know how many kids they have. Not that I'm being an asshole, but that's not my focus. If we never go to a football game together, we never go fishing together, I never go to their house, I'm fine.
Right.
The thing is, most people who get into sales, and I'll just put this, and I'll just say it's a lot of Southerners too, right? We have this high need for approval. We want other people to like us because we get validation about ourselves when other people like us.
Right.
And among the problems with that in sales is if you're worried that somebody's not going to like you, you'll never push back. You'll never challenge them on what they're thinking. I promise you, most of the time when most people don't know how to buy what you sell. And if you let them buy it their way, they're going to do it wrong and you'll waste a lot of time. We have to be able to realize that I'm not trying to be friends. I want to be kind, but not necessarily nice. Kind means doing the right thing on the benefit of the other for the benefit of the other person.
Right.
Nice means doing what the other person wants you to do.
Right.
Nice is weak, kind is strong. Sometimes the kindest thing you can say is, I don't think I'm going to be the right fit, and mean it.
Right.
If you want to be friends with everybody and they don't buy from you, it means you've lost a friend. And oh my God, it hurts to lose a friend.
Wow.
And so we don't want to lose a friend. So we'll keep it. We don't want to hear no. We'll chase them forever. And if they've hired us and then they let us go, because that may be the natural arc of things, we're like, oh my God, no, please no. We'll try and invade their lives.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I ask people in a group, how many of you need more friends? And if somebody's dumb enough to raise their hand, I'll say, okay, well, if you need more friends, get a dog, right? The best friend you'll ever have. Because maybe if you feel like you need more friends, I'm so sorry. Most of us, I'm 57 years old, so I'm old. But
you look great for your age.
It's because I only have a few friends. I've got 5 very close friends, right? And I'm very close with those 5. I have plenty of other people that I'm friendly with, their associates or things like that. But I've only got time to really invest in probably 5 friendships. And think about yourself. And again, I'm somebody that is in college and after college, I had a wide circle of friends, but they were loose connections.
Yeah.
And right now, I got 5 friends with very tight connections. We understand each other. We respect each other. We help each other. And when I go to work, I'm not looking to make more friends. Now, don't take me too literally. I don't go to work to be an asshole.
Right.
But my job is to help people. And sometimes to help people, I've got to challenge them. And I've got to say, can I share something with you? That's an excuse. And if you push back on somebody, you're worried about them being your friend, then if you piss them off, then you lose.
Right. Right.
And so I don't, people hire me not to be they don't hire me to be their friend, I hope.
Right.
Does that make sense? I feel like I've just been gumbanging over here.
No, and you're right. I know one of the issues that most salespeople have is that they're constantly chasing people.
Yes.
Right. How can we change this mindset of constantly chasing? And maybe there's some methodologies or some tips that
there are
how can I turn that to people can start chasing me, or I'm interviewing people to be my client, whatever, instead of I'm chasing people. And
so the first thing you got to realize is you're not the right fit for everybody.
Right.
You've got to be perfectly comfortable that no matter, even if you sell oxygen, right? Even if you sell water in the desert, you're not the right fit for everybody. There are some people, maybe they don't. And again, let's take away the water in the desert thing. Some people don't have money. Some people may have a competitor's thing that is, I'm certain, is not nearly as good as yours, but they don't give a shit. It's not a problem of theirs right now.
Sure.
Or they're an asshole. You don't have to sell to assholes, right? If you do, I'm so sorry. But ordinarily, if they're going to be a jerk about it, walk away.
Yeah.
And so realize you're not the right fit for everybody. And your job is to make sure that you are disqualifying those people that you're not the right fit for. Sometimes, and I struggle, I need to tell you this, I struggle with a high need for approval. I have my whole life. I've had to force it down. So when I go on a sales call and I'm getting ready to meet with somebody, I have to say to myself, Walker, you're not trying to make friends. You're trying to figure out if this person's going to be the right fit for you. And chances are they're not going to be the right fit. And the sooner you figure that out, the better. And so I'll have my sales call. And what I'm looking for in any sales call is a yes or no to something.
Right.
Right. Let's decide by the end of this call whether or not it makes sense for you to hire me to do X. Right. Which means you sign a contract and give me a check. Anything less than you're thinking that's a great idea, let's call it a no. And what I tell people is, no is my second favorite word. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So my goal for a sales call is not to make the sale, because I only control at best 50% of that. My goal of a sales call is to get a decision, a yes or a no. And no is my second favorite word. I hear it all the time, and I'm perfectly okay with that.
Right.
It's just not the right fit right now. So good selling is acting. Or there's some people that I'm like, oh God, it would be so great to work with them. I sure hope this works. Yeah, but I have to put that aside when I'm in a sales call. I've got to push that. I have to push that down and say that need will not be fulfilled at the office.
Yeah.
I want my kids. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, this goes right into our topic for the day. I know that our topic was going to be overcoming approval addiction. And man, you said that that it's something you've struggled with, and you still have the need to, and feel like you got to force it down. Ditto on that, man. I feel like a lot of salespeople get into sales for those wrong reasons.
100%.
A lot of salespeople, because I love people, I love whatever. I'm going to be a salesperson. I can sell. You know, we sold our first thing at a retail store, or a bag of French fries, or whatever it is, and we're like, man, I liked that. That person got what they needed, and they left with a good attitude.
Yeah.
So we're like, I think I want to do that for my career.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a, there's an exercise I take people through. And basically the question I ask, I say, pretend that you're on a deserted island and you're there by yourself for 30 minutes. Right. And you're perfectly, you're safe, you're healthy, you're happy. Everything is perfect. The only catch is you're there by yourself, and you don't have any of your roles that you normally play in your life, right? You don't have dad, friend, brother, cousin, golfer, funny guy, salesperson, whatever, all these different roles we play. We all play a million roles in our life, right? You're on this island by yourself for 30 minutes. It's your own choice. Everything's perfect, but you don't have any of your roles with you. What is your value on the planet during that 30 minutes? And I say, give it a value between, say, 0 and 10. 0 got no value, 10, highest value. And a lot of people struggle. When I first kind of had this question asked of me, I couldn't even guess. So I just picked 6, right? The answer,
6 what?
What would you guess, Jonathan? What's your value on the planet during that time with none of your roles?
I don't know. I feel like all of my value is with my relationships with other people. So I would say 1,
right.
0.
So here's the answer. The answer is 10. Right? Because your value, you are 100% loved by your creator way, way, way before, billions of years before you were discovered in your mother's womb. Billions of years before, and always have been and always will be, no matter what. Right? Before you were discovered in your mother's womb, you were 100% loved by your creator.
Wow.
And that is the only thing we need approval from, and it comes to us automatically 100%. And every other thing, everything else we look for approval from is imperfect. And so you're loved if you're a murderer, if you're a loser, if you're a drug user, if you're whatever. And we're all, this is a technical term, I hope I can say it, we're all fucked up. Yeah. Right? We all are. And we're loved 100% no matter what. And so if you start with that belief and you recognize that at my core, I have 100% value no matter what.
Yeah.
But I've got these roles that I play. And my roles, I'm going to screw them up. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do bad shit. And you know what? That has no dealing. That doesn't deal at all. Has nothing to do with my value on the planet, in the universe. So what I can do, and when I go to sales call, say, I'm going to send my role, my sales guy role, in on this sales call. And that role is going to go in and it's going to go do the best sales call I can do. And if I screw it up, something happens, boom, that role's killed. I got a billion more sales guy roles. It has no reflection on me.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.